All right, we're going to get started here. I hope everyone's having a good morning. I'm glad folks got here safely. Thanks for everyone who's joining us here on Zoom. I know we had some fun winter weather come up at the last minute and road closures and everything, so a little more complicated than our typical Zoom meetings, but really appreciate you guys taking the time to learn more about the Klamath, to help share information that you might be providing, to help listen and learn from so many other great speakers we'll have over the next few days. So I just want to thank everyone right off the bat. Thank our presenters, thank our steering committee for the Klamath Basin Monitoring Program, who helps keep the ship afloat. Thank our fiscal sponsor, Caltrans, and just want to welcome you all to the meeting. My name is Randy Turner. I work for the San Francisco Estuary Institute, and I'm the coordinator for KBMP. And just really pleased to have another great turnout and a great set of talks for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay. All right. If anyone isn't familiar with our mission and vision, we are all about, generally speaking, we're about water quality, but there's so many other aspects of the work that we do, that connects to other disciplines out there. We won't be able to recover fisheries populations and aquatic species if we don't address water quality issues. And so much of that ties directly into all the restoration work that's happening, to dam removal. So, this is an interdisciplinary world. I try to make that point each and every meeting because it's so very important. So while our mission is water quality, specifically, it relates to so much of the work that hundreds or thousands of people are doing across the basin. So I appreciate that. I will get on my soapbox and advocate for water quality in situations where we're talking about other things, but it's just because I care deeply about it and I see those connections. In terms of KBMP as an organization, we are really a volunteer organization, with working with stakeholder organizations. We have 17 organizations on our steering committee, all across federal, state agencies, nonprofits, NGOs, private companies. So there's a broad, coverage of KBMP in terms of the input we get and the partners we have. There's a lot of other groups in the room that aren't technically KBMP members, and that's okay. We welcome you. We hope you learned something today. And if you want to join KBMP, we are always willing to accept new organizations as members. I do this work about roughly 20 hours a week on average. So it's a challenge at times to get everything done that we're trying to do here. But it's just it's just the funding level we have right now. Looking obviously to expand if possible. So if there's any funding opportunities that anyone is aware of, we would love to have a side conversation. So in terms of the big things that KBMP does, this isn't inclusive or anything, but running these meetings twice a year is one of our more important and more valuable tasks. There is just so much that goes on when we work together, when we collaborate, when we discuss, when we network, when we have these meetings. There's so much that I hope you'll learn in these next 2 days to really help guide what you're doing and move the basin forward. We really, this is one part of our process to share information and data, and make sure that we can get the proper information together to make the right decisions and manage the resources. So that is a big part of what KBMP tries to do, because when we work with all these different agencies and organizations, how they collect data, how they store data, where is it, how do I get to it? Those are really difficult questions, and it varies by organization so much. It's a huge challenge. We haven't solved all those issues, but we want to work with each of your organizations to help make sure that data and information is available. So where we can share your annual reports or links to your data, or share the data itself, please let me know. We would love to help continue to move that forward. Part of that is helping folks get data into public databases. And we're also going to be working on, we are working on a status and trends report for the main stem Klamath to try to understand a little bit about, what are those longitudinal trends upstream to downstream? How do conditions change seasonally? What's happening in some of the major tributaries? So it's a big effort. I am somewhat overwhelmed at times by the amount of data that we're trying to work with, but it's an important story to tell. To really understand, pre-dam removal conditions. So it is a work in progress, but we are excited to be working on it. So today is interesting. Typically, we have a variety of talks, which will be tomorrow's agenda. But today is really all but one talk will be focused on dam removal and the science and monitoring behind it. And then we will have what I hope is a great panel discussion towards the end of the day after lunch. Where we can just learn more and really have a discussion and a conversation about what's happening. So there'll be 8 talks today, 11 tomorrow. Tomorrow's a pretty nice variety, and hope that that's more of the typical KBMP style. In terms of dam removal, where we are, we're still crossing our fingers with all the final permitting and approvals, and hopefully no lawsuits. So we're hopeful. There's been many people in this room, I think, who've been working on this for the last couple decades, whether, on the data collection side or some other capacity. There's just a variety of monitoring data out there, whether it's long-term stations where, data's been collected for the last 20 or 30 years somewhere, some of the data that's required from a regulatory perspective, or just people doing research on a side project. So there's just a huge amount of data of an incredible variety. And so one of the things we want to talk about today, is kind of what are we missing? What else needs to be done if possible before dam removal? Speaking of that, there's a group of us who've been working together to plan a workshop to discuss the science and collaboration related to dam removal. This is kind of a somewhat early announcement in a sense. It'll be in mid-January at Cal Poly Humboldt, and also available online. So we'll talk about collaboration, look at the gaps in the science data that's collected, try to cover lessons learned of other dam removal efforts and how that might affect the Klamath, and then really discuss coordination, data sharing, analysis. How do we come together at what is getting to be the last moment to collect the information we need to collect? So many folks in the room and online have been working together on this, and I just appreciate those efforts to try to make this workshop happen and add value to the work we're all doing. There's somewhat limited capacity for in-person attendance. And so, there's a certain number of people who will be, kind of able to attend in person. And if you do want to attend, please contact Allison O'Dowd at Cal Poly Humboldt. I have her email here, and we'll make this slideshow available as a PDF on our website after the meeting. So, and there'll be other announcements via email and everything else, but I'm really looking forward to some good information shared there. In general, I kind of already went through this, and I don't want to go too long here, but there's a lot of science to learn about over the next couple of days. Understand those connections of the interdisciplinary nature I mentioned, and really, this is the first time we've been together in a room for a few years, at least for me. And so, rebuilding that collaboration, the networking, my first KBMP meeting in a few years where I'm not wearing sweatpants. So things have changed. We have some meeting guidelines within the agenda. I want to say it's towards the end. I don't know the exact page number right off the top of my head, but we have our kind of, kindergarten rules. How do we play together nicely? This is not, we don't want to get into no arguing today. We want to be, respectful is maybe the key word. So please take a look at that if you haven't seen our ground rules before, and hope we can maintain that. For everyone who's on Zoom, please keep yourself muted unless you're, we've recognized you and it's your turn to speak. If you're on Zoom, please right click and rename yourself. That's important so we know who is attending. When we get Sarah or someone else, just as a, we don't know who Sarah is. So sorry if there's any Sarahs out there. If you have a question on Zoom, you can either use the raise your hand button. It's under the kind of reactions button on the bottom tab, or you can enter your question in the chat and then we'll read that out for the speaker to answer. We will put a meeting evaluation online. We'll email you all a link to it for those who are attending, and we'll put it on the website as well. So that'll be a Google form, helps us automate the answers and make it easier to process, but we really do appreciate that feedback and we really do take it into account. So like I said, we will post slides of the talks, those we have permission to post. Some folks are presenting preliminary data that really can't be shared and online just yet, and we appreciate them being able to present and understand that things, it's maybe a little early to actually share things as a PDF or as a video, but we will be processing the recordings of the presenters as well as little YouTube videos. So that's something we just started last meeting, and I think it's helpful. We'll take some morning and afternoon break each day. We hope you take those opportunities to network with folks you haven't seen in a while or haven't met yet. So it's a good opportunity for that. And then we're going to be going to dinner tonight for casual, informal, if folks are comfortable attending an in-person dinner. There's a restaurant called Smoked Tomato Pie here in Wairika. Can I get a show of hands if you were thinking of attending tonight, and just keep them up for a second so I can get a count? We can talk about that, maybe 6. It's pretty casual here. Show of hands, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, okay. Yeah, pretty easy. Closer to after the meeting? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, maybe we can do what's the between lunch and dinner? We'll work it out. But anyway, does anyone have any scissors I can borrow? Oh wait, never mind. Sorry. Any other questions though? Chauncey.
Yeah, just because we're not seeing Zoom. Can you give us a sense of how many people are on the Zoom? Right now, it looks like you guys, and it's probably worthwhile for them that we're not seeing chats. So
yes, you are welcome to. I'll see if Josh has an answer for the how many people. 90 so far. Okay. So really great participation out there. Yes, this is a pretty small gathering in person, but given the weather conditions and everything, it's pretty understandable, as well as COVID requirements. I did ask that people wear masks. Thank you. I know that's going to be a challenge over the course of 2 days. The speaker will be able to pull their mask off when it's their turn to talk. So thanks for bearing with us and COVID. And just want to again say thank you, and we're going to start and welcome our first speaker,